A presentation on the ordinance for chapter 17 around nuisances. So I'll just be looking for a motion of support to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, deletions, additions? Seeing and hearing none, clerk will tally and display the votes.
Good thing we have this technology.
Just gotta have a little patience. It's cold. It's been a month since we've used it. You sent it already? And passes unanimously. That brings us down to item number 5, presentations and proclamations. Item A, we have a presentation on an ordinance presentation, chapter 17, nuisances. Mr. City Manager, you want to get started on this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In anticipation of tonight and the attendance, City Attorney Matt Haggerty and I will go through the agenda item for new business, chapter 17, nuisances. Matt, kick it off to you to get started to go over the nuts and bolts of the ordinance, and then I'm going to bring up the city's webpage dedicated to providing information on what is being proposed tonight. Before I do that, though, is there a Kimberly McCaney here? There's an ID found outside the door, so I wanted to check and make sure. Hold on to this one. All right, let me take us away, Matt.
Thanks. Can everybody hear me okay? I can see a lot of new faces in the chamber tonight, so appreciate everyone being here this evening. I know this is a topic of great concern to the community writ large. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of what is being proposed tonight as an amendment to Chapter 7 of our City Code of Ordinances. And obviously the chamber is full due to two real concerns, both of which deserve to be heard. The city's having a real honest conversation, sometimes difficult, about homelessness in our downtown. It's a conversation that starts from two things that are both true at once. And this ordinance is being offered for consideration tonight because neither one can be ignored. First, downtown business owners, shoppers, employees, and residents have raised real concerns, and based upon what's on the agenda tonight, your legislative body, this body, City Council, has listened. Visible encampments and accumulated personal property in high traffic areas, county library, sidewalks, parks, near storefronts affect how downtown feels, how safe it is perceived, how welcoming it is to visitors, and how easily people can simply walk, shop, or push a stroller through. Businesses and residents have told the city this affects foot traffic and how customers and its visitors perceive downtown. All those concerns are legitimate, and the city has a responsibility to respond to them. At the same time, people experiencing homelessness in Jackson are our neighbors, and they deserve to be treated with respect and with dignity. Behind every tent and every pile of belongings is a human being, often someone dealing with a medical crisis, addiction, job loss, living with untreated mental illness, or simply priced out of a housing market that has too few affordable homes. Whatever the path that led someone to sleep outside, they do not forfeit their rights to fair treatment, due process, or basic human dignity. A city that responds to downtown concerns by quietly discarding someone's only belongings or by treating the unsheltered residents in our city as a problem to be moved along rather than people to be helped has failed just as surely as a city that ignores downtown's concerns entirely. So, this ordinance is a good faith attempt to hold both of those truths at the same time, not to pick a side between downtown and the unhoused, because both are part of the same community. So, what does this proposed ordinance actually do? First and foremost, it regulates conduct, not status. This is not a specific ordinance driven towards our homeless population. This applies across the board to any persons that would have personal property, including tents, and how they are stored on public rights-of-way, sidewalks, and parks. In plain terms, unattended or excess personal property, what can fit in a 32-gallon container with the lid closed, left in public areas, must be removed after notice. And I repeat, after notice, and this is the due process part of it. It would be 24 hours in most of the city, or as little as a 2-hour window within the Downtown Development Authority District, and we have a map of that. It's available on the city's website, that is formally designated by City Manager Green. Tents require a permit to be set up in any public area. The permit process will be neutral and available to anyone. It will not and cannot be denied based upon who someone is or what message they carry. Unpermitted tents may be taken down, but the person's belongings must still be preserved and safely stored first. Except for genuine hazards, trash, spoiled foods, biohazard material, the property will be removed and cataloged, stored for up to 30 days, and can be reclaimed for free with no ID required. A citation is optional. There is a $50 civil fine. It's not criminal. No one goes to jail for a violation of the ordinance, and it's never mandatory. Police officers, and I've had this discussion with Chief Simpson, police officers who are the boots on the ground, the front line in enforcing this ordinance, can choose a warning or a referral to outreach and shelter services or community partners that deal with the homeless space instead of a ticket, and must document the reasoning either way. Suffice it to say, this is not intended to criminalize being unhoused or hit someone with a financial penalty we know they can't afford. Enforcement will be content neutral and status neutral. The same rules applied the same way, regardless of who someone is or why their property is there. Going back to the concerns of everyone in this room, and you could probably put a dividing line, and there's the reason everyone's here tonight, because no one here is wrong. Everyone has an opinion and perspective, and I'm anxious, I know council's anxious to hear what you have to say. But for the downtown and business community, let's clear sidewalks, parks, rights of way, and storefront areas, restore a predictable, walkable public space. It gives the city a lawful and consistent process to respond to the specific encampments driving the complaints, rather than no process at all, which we currently don't have on the books. It creates a faster 2-hour notice option in our downtown for the busiest blocks, where accumulation has the most impact, as evidenced by the encampment at the Carnegie Library. Again, it requires a permit for tents in public areas, addressing the single most visible driver of downtown complaints. For our unsheltered neighbors, it guarantees advance notice before anything is removed, with narrow, clearly defined exceptions. Again, it requires their belongings to be safely stored and returned for free, with no ID required. Nothing is simply thrown away, other than the aforementioned biohazards or food waste. The same 2-hour standards even-handedly apply to anyone in the area. It's not aimed at any one person or encampment. And we have a permit process that will be content neutral and open to anyone, and requires belongings from a tent to be preserved even when the tent itself is removed. For the business owners and downtown residents, it will give officers clear authority to act on obstruction, safety, and accessibility problems, for ADA compliance. And for our homeless friends, it gives those same officers the discretion to choose a warning or a service referral over a citation. Compassion is built into the enforcement. It's not an exception to it. Finally, what this ordinance does not do, it does not criminalize being homeless. There's no penalty anywhere in the ordinance. Status of lacking housing, and certainly no criminal penalty. It does not ban sleeping, sitting, or resting in public. Someone without a tent is not in violation of the ordinance simply for being outside. It does not authorize belongings to be destroyed on site, again, except for genuine hazards. There is no requirement for an officer to issue a citation. And lastly, as we all know, because Jackson is not unique, you can go to any mid-sized Midwestern community here in Michigan, East Coast, West Coast, every community deals with this problem. And how do we deal with it compassionately, with proper legal authority, and having everyone's rights, everyone in this room who has an opinion, and having all their rights recognized and heard. So it manages public spaces responsibly. And the city, and I know Mr. Green has had these discussions with our community partners, and their separate work on shelter and housing, that will continue. Finally, a well-managed and welcoming downtown and a compassionate response to homelessness are not competing goals. Everyone up here on this dais is committed to both. This ordinance is written as a tool to provide that Jackson can do both at once. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Matt. There's some nuts and bolts and some operational aspects of the ordinance that come into play if passed tonight. Matt did a great job saying more eloquently than I have been able to so far about trying to strike the balance between everything that we need to do and everyone's rights. We, as a council, have been working on this issue for a number of years and had a good sense that this council would not support anything that was injurious to people and their belongings without having an alternative. So did some research, had some research sent to us from people in the community, and there's a model out there where people's belongings have been stored in these situations where they do have excess personal property. We looked at examples out of state and in state, and so to make sure that this council understood that this wasn't a carte blanche throwing of people's belongings away. You can see in the ordinance, we will store safely and securely for up to 30 days. And the way we're doing that right now, absent of any meeting in any direction before this, had to make some judgment calls and figure out a good way to do this. There's a whole bunch of different ways to store stuff, lockers, storage rooms, things like that. But we've acquired 2 steel shipping containers. They're 20 feet long, 8 feet tall, and we have built them out to have cubbies in them, a hallway and cubbies with shelves and carts that can be wheeled in and out. The current location contemplated right now would be the city parking lot behind, and I have to age myself and I'll have to make the right reference name, behind the old Wendy's or behind the old Dallenberg back there. It's well lit, it's secure, it's close-ish to downtown, it's underneath lights, and barring any other community partner who'd want to step up and help with this, which you're totally welcome and open to, this is what we're doing right now. We have not spent much on this. I had a question on that earlier, so I'll just say it right now. We're all in for the stuff we purchased for less than $5,000. And I made the choice that I made to use this option instead of waiting for lockers or storage things that are specifically made for this. One, we couldn't wait that long, and 2, if there was no take rate on this, and that's I think a fair concern, that just do all this and no one will utilize it, we can reposition those things for our own needs and not waste resources. Matt did a good job explaining how these things would be approached on the street. We'll be approaching this with a significant amount of compassion, understanding that who we're dealing with, what they have is who they are and all they have. This isn't this solution is not meant to address the bigger overarching issues we all face. This is to balance the interest of the neighborhood. We have a lot to consider, and the city attorney made some very good points on that. I'm open to answer any questions council has on the nuts and bolts of how we would do this, but currently contemplated, that's what we're thinking. The hours of access would be while the city DPW is operating, especially in the beginning. We would have very robust hours to start with to make sure we made accommodations for as many people as we could to store their stuff. And going forward, we'd have to monitor it. We'd have to see how much this is being used, if it's being used, when it's being used, and make those decisions. And like I said before, always open to a community partner on this situation.
Point of clarification, please.
So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll open myself, Matt, to any questions that council would have.
Council, what questions do you guys have for city manager or city attorney?
Jonathan, can you please provide to the community, you said hours of access, pretty robust, can you give
Yeah,
clear
officially it'd be
timeline?
7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Officially. We do end up coming to work early at DPW and do end up staying late, so if someone's around, of course, we'll make it available. But officially, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Monday through Friday, or?
Monday through Friday, as of right now.
Oh my God.
For individuals that are experiencing homelessness that do not have an ID, what is our recourse for handling that situation?
We'd have to work through that, but I know there's some ideas in the base about.
The ordinance is contemplated that no ID would be required. You know, in practical terms, if they come up to the shipping containers that Mr. Green just alluded to, hey, I have an orange backpack with a blue handle, it's got X amount of property in it or something is identifiable, and you simply give it back to them. Simple as that. Now, there's an issue that arises with people going in there and trying to take items that are not theirs. You know, we'll have a process for, someone just in there saying, they're taking items. But it's really the honor system. I mean, we're not going to, this isn't a double check for 3 forms of ID to get personal property that may be their only possessions. So right now it's contemplated there's no ID being required.
And one of the ideas we had internally too is just to take a picture of the person and hang that at the cubby, so it's easy as that. This person looks like that picture, it's your stuff. It could be that simple.
The 32 gallons, which is like a cubic yard, basically, is that, does it say that I'm staying in a tent? I can keep, okay, so it's one of those. So that is how much I can have before the rest would be stored, or that is how much the city would store?
The former. So you could have up to 32 gallons of personal property with the lid closed. That would not be violative of the ordinance. Now, if you leave it unattended, it could be tagged and after 24 hours potentially stored, regardless as to size, but just sitting there out in the street. But you could have up to that amount of property on your person, and that would not violate the ordinance. Now, if you've got a variety of other items, a mattress, pick anything you could think of that wouldn't physically fit in there, that would be what's referred to in the ordinance as excess personal property. There'd be a notice given. If the person is in possession of it and is physically there, they would receive the ticket with a notice. They would then, in the DDA district, have 2 hours to remove the excess personal property, and it would be stored at no cost, and it would be then removed if.
Can you turn off? I can't hear you back here.
We're working on that. Working on the audio as best we can. We'll try to speak into the microphone as best as possible.
Works great.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
All right, apologies. So, again, if it fits inside of that container, it would not run afoul of the ordinance. We're only dealing with personal property that does not fit in that 32-gallon available to live closed.
And then if I have property over that, does the standard backpack size, the essential personal property, is that included in that, or I can have one of those plus the backpack amount of stuff?
So that's a great question. If the backpack is, on your person, lots of people travel with backpacks, I think in some regard, it has to be a bit of a judgment call, but if someone has a backpack on their person, that's also referred to as essential personal property. If you've got your ID, medication, other items that are of, more significant importance, those get treated with a higher level of care in terms of what's removed. So, again, if it's on your person, you're carrying it, versus it's sitting on the ground, it doesn't fit in the container, and you have a bunch of other items that exceed that 32 gallon, you may have to stick the backpack in a container that size. But again, if you have it on your person, you're walking around and you've got the backpack on your back, and I think that's going to be an issue.
And it's the access beyond all that stuff that would trigger the storage situation.
That's correct.
And the storage cubbies are presumably of a decent size, I would think.
Yeah, and we'll flex, and if someone needs more than one cubby, we'll make get more cubbies. And if we end up needing another shipping container and build it out, then we do that too. Like I said, we're all in right now for less than $5,000. We're gonna be okay.
Thank you.
So those tents aren't gonna fit into this container, correct? Tents aren't gonna fit in there, not likely.
I guess it depends on the size of the tent. So
How it breaks down.
and that's a great question, Councilwoman Gunn. So if it breaks down and fits inside of the container, you could have a tent, not an erected tent, but you could have a tent that fits inside of the container. Separately, the ordinance specifically addresses tents themselves. So the type of encampment now that's in front of the Carnegie Library, an actual tent that you would sleep in, those are not permitted on any portion of public property. And that includes rights-of-way, sidewalks, parks, buildings, and it can't be affixed to any portion of any public property out there. So you can't have anything attaching a string or a bungee or a rope, chains, etc., that are attached or fixed to public property. And one other caveat, based on Councilman Wood's inquiry, we can also remove property that immediately that is in either blocking a fire hydrant, for example, or blocking an ADA compliant pathway, so our handicapped friends and neighbors can get through the areas. So if you have a tent that's erected on any property, that would be violative of the ordinance, but if you store it within a 32-gallon container and take it with you, that's permissible. You just can't erect the tent and utilize it on public property.
And so we're okay with people sleeping in the park benches, being downtown, as long as they have a container like that with their stuff in it, and they don't pitch a tent.
The short answer is yes. We're not looking to criminalize or send tickets to someone who is sleeping in the street that doesn't otherwise have housing. We would hope that our community neighbors would reach out to those folks and give them the necessary resources, but we're not looking to criminalize simply being outside, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, sleeping, taking a nap, sitting in park property. That would not be penalized under the ordinance. It's really dealing with, again, conduct, not status, and the amount of stuff you physically have on your person as opposed to what you're doing.
I have a follow-up question to that, if we'll allow Mr. Mayor. To your answer, Matt, is that even legal to not allow someone to be sitting or sleeping on a park bench?
So that's a great question that probably would take a much longer legal answer than we have time for this evening. But I will say, generally speaking, people have the right of assembly. We've got our constitutional amendments, right? So again, the 14th Amendment, your procedural and substantive due process, your 4th Amendment, right against search and seizure, your 8th Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment, your 1st Amendment, right of assembly. So all those have to be looked at in the aggregate when we look at ordinances like this. And as a city, I think the way this was drafted to make the collective decision not to criminalize and penalize someone for simply being outside and being unhoused if they don't have any other options. We're dealing with accumulated stuff and not the person. We really want to hopefully hear a dialogue here this evening that addresses how we best help those individuals, while again balancing the rights of everyone in this room and everyone who lives in our city to utilize the downtown in a safe and fair manner.
So then what we're just trying to do is take down the encampment, basically.
You know, we're trying to deal with excess property.
Yep.
And
I
camping
get-
is a
I-
part of that,
Yep,
yes.
so I get that part of it. I just wanna make sure that I'm clear what we're trying to do with this ordinance. So then people who are currently unhoused, who are sleeping in tents, just don't have any place to sleep.
Yeah, they would not be
They
sleeping.
would not be sleeping in a tent.
That's correct.
Yeah.
On public property.
On public property.
That's on public property.
Okay.
I have another question if Councilmember Gunn is
Yeah.
finished. So I'm staying, for the sake of example, outside the library. I'm sleeping in a tent. I've got about that much stuff in my tent. I've got a backpack with my medication and ID and stuff in it. And I have a bike that I ride to work. Does my bike get counted toward my 30, like my bike doesn't disassemble and fit into that? I would think that your answer is probably going to be it's up to the discretion of the person who's enforcing the ordinance, but is that contemplated, I guess? Because I think we don't want to get into a situation where we're preventing people from being able to get to work by having a bicycle.
Great question, and so the first part of your statement is correct. You know, if an officer is out there, if the officer is out there and sees the fact that, or is, they're told that this is their only means of transportation, there's a specific exemption in the ordinance for mobility devices, anyone's wheelchair, self-propelled or electric, and we're not going to take anyone's mode of transportation from them. And there's bike racks and other things there, so that's a great question, but I think logically, if this is someone's means of getting around town, we're not looking to take their bike and then having them go to DPW to retrieve it.
Thank you. I had looked for bicycles, but it's under mobility devices, so that's more general. Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
So, Mr. Mayor, is that okay for me? A person could have the 32-gallon on the street, but any excess is going to be taken down to DPW?
So no one's gonna be given that tub. I needed to understand what 32 gallons look like. I can picture someone holding, well, you can't hold 32 gallons of milk, but I can visualize that. I couldn't visualize what does 32 gallons of stuff look like, and I didn't think we as a council would necessarily understand that. So, are those tubs gonna be issued to people? No. Will we possibly use something like that as a measuring tool? For sure, to make sure we're acting appropriately, not citing people who don't need to be cited. And then people will get creative with storing stuff and packaging it away tightly and nicely. We don't want to do anything to hurt them. So no one's going to get a tote, but we needed to have like a visual representation of how much stuff we're actually looking at. And so you're looking at like a backpack, maybe another bag, and some other stuff. But you know.
But
that's it.
is what they can have
On their person.
On their person.
Yeah.
And anything over that, like the mattress or all these other things, would be taken to DPW for it.
Correct.
Okay. I too imagine milk, but I went and Googled it and I got garbage can for 32 gallon garbage cans. So it wasn't like that, but I'm sure they hold the same capacity. Could I also ask about the 2-hour rule? I guess I missed that along the way in reading the information we had. That is in the DDA district?
It is, Councilman Robinson. So the way this is working, maybe we should have mentioned this at the outset. So what's being proposed tonight as council is aware, is an emergency ordinance that takes 6 of 7 council members to vote in the affirmative to adopt it as an emergency ordinance. Practically speaking, under section 9.6 of the city charter, it goes into effect when the ordinance is published. I've spoken with Clerk Murray. So as a practical matter, if the ordinance is adopted this evening, it's probably going to go into effect sometime in the late morning or early afternoon this Thursday. So that's when it is actually going to be on the books. I'm sorry, your other question was?
The 2 hour.
The two hour rule. So the ordinance further contemplates that by administrative regulation, Manager Green, if it's adopted, would execute an administrative regulation authorizing a 2-hour removal window as opposed to 24 hours within the DDA district, and there's a map on the city website of what that district is. So the high traffic areas in the downtown would have a no less than 2-hour notice requirement before property potentially would be removed.
And then just to clarify, after 30 days, then that's when people's property is gonna be destroyed or whatever it is that you take the next step.
Correct.
Yeah, we would probably, I don't wanna promise this because I don't say it would happen every time, but like in the community that we're talking about with the stakeholders that have been involved in this, we're not seeing somebody for a while. 15 days, kind of have that halfway point, we start asking questions. Who, has anybody seen this person? Let's make sure they're still around, let's make sure they still want us, and then get to 30 days, we'll do the same thing. Like, who do we know who's out there working in this space? Can we find this person? Can it be communicated to them that stuff's gonna be thrown away? We don't wanna throw anybody's stuff away that doesn't have to be thrown away. And if we have to go and stretch ourselves a little bit to find somebody, then we'll do that. But when we can't, then we'll have to do that. We'll throw it away.
Here's one other practical aspect I think is worth mentioning, and I actually had this conversation with Deputy Police Chief Garcia, which is if the officers are the first responders on scene dealing with excess personal property, they encounter a resident, they're gonna activate their body cameras. And those are great, one, because it actually has a visible representation of what was physically taken, with whom they're interacting. So again, to my example of, I have an orange backpack with a blue strap, well, we can go back to the footage potentially, and it'll all be inventoried and line itemed when the specific individual or individuals receive notice of removal. But that's something worth mentioning that Chief Simpson can largely speak to better than I, is the CEO of his department, so to speak, that the officers out there do a great job, and a lot of them know these people that are out there right now and have interacted with them. And so Jonathan's precisely correct that we want to take a kinder, gentler approach to this, and hopefully through education and understanding what this ordinance is and isn't, we can get those people to voluntarily comply as well. But we'll have a way to track it both in a written form as well as the visual body cam evidence as well.
Okay, so I have just a couple more follow-up questions. You triggered something for me. So even though the ordinance reads unattended, it's really unattended, or if you have more than 32 gallons. So it's unattended and attended.
It absolutely is, and that's specified in the ordinance, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what does it cost for a tent permit? And where would you pitch a tent with a tent permit?
That's a great question. It's likely going to be subject to our special event application process. So the mayor asked an example. The Boy Scouts want to set up tents for a particular event they're having, or anyone else in the community. If you would file a permit, and you would either do that through a special event application. I don't quote me on the unless Manager Green knows what the application fee is, but you pay that application fee.
Oh, it varies.
Yeah.
I've seen it. It's been 0 to like up to 150.
Correct. So we look at that in terms of what the impacts to city staff and resources are, and judge that accordingly. But it wouldn't be any more or less than any other event where someone would want to erect tents for a variety of public purposes in the public square.
So then if it goes that route, it's also a short term, right?
That's correct. It would be subject, just like we have block party
Yeah.
permits or other things like that have specified hours, or like any civic event application it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on a Saturday. When it's over with, the items will be removed.
Thank you.
So the ordinance applies, as I understand it, to public areas, which is basically defined as city property, which includes like parks, but sidewalks, streets. Would there be, I'm thinking of some of our social service organization partners in the community who do have property, like is there something that would stop, for example, our friends at RIA from saying this is a place that people can put up tents, or is that a question for, like, we'd have to look at other ordinances, and does that count as a structure or something like that?
I think it's really the former, because that's gonna trigger zoning ordinance compliance, and this is only contemplated, as you just said, on city-owned property. So this, literally, in this building, outside of the building, rights of way, parks, sidewalks, anything that the city owns, lots of our outlots that we take back through the county foreclosure process, anything that we own, but it would not apply to, for example, it would not apply to the library property, it would not apply to RIA, and we'd have a separate set of ordinances that would regulate, that's on the books now under our zoning code, would regulate what they can and can't do.
Because that is their property as distinct from ours, and so it's private rather than public.
That's correct. Or in the case of the library,
It's public,
quasi-
but owned
public.
not by us, so it's not public under the ordinance.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Council, what other questions do you have? While you're thinking about it, I just want to say thank you to Attorney Haggerty for spending almost 3 hours with me on all the questions that I had and concerns that I had about the ordinance, and being able to clarify it in some areas that I had questions. And for all the diligence that you put in this, I really think that you've covered a wide variety of the bases that we would have to be concerned about. I did direct someone to call you with the questions that they had, because they started mentioning, hey, the city's gonna get a lawsuit for this. Do you suspect that we are like legally covered to enforce this?
Great and loaded question, because you're asking an attorney. So the short answer is there are no guarantees in the law. Anyone can sue anyone or anything for anything. I'm confident that on its face, the ordinance is facially valid. The proverbial devil's in the details and how we enforce it, right? And that's through education. We've had these internal discussions with city staff and how we operationally do it. We're looking to give everyone the maximum amount of due process and make sure that all of their rights are taken into consideration in this ordinance. And so it's modeled to some extent as to what Grand Rapids has done in terms of storage of personal property. There's other communities that have anti-camping ordinances that are on the books. Kalamazoo is one example. And so we're trying to, again, thread that needle between the balance of making this a safe, welcoming environment for everybody, and then also making sure that we treat everyone with dignity and respect. And threading that needle's not always easy, and I've had those discussions, earnest and honest discussions with a variety of community stakeholders and people that in this room, as we'll see at the call of the public, have differing opinions on it. But I do believe post the U.S. Supreme Court's Grants Pass decision in 2024 that facially this would be legally valid.
Yep.
Council, what other questions do you have? We will move forward. If you will refresh your screens so that your voting apparatuses are working correctly. Actually, I don't think you'll have to right now. However, so we have no public hearing. That takes us, thank you so much, Matt, for and Mr. City Manager for starting us off with a presentation and hopefully get at least some initial questions from council out of the way on this particular issue. We will move forward. We have no public hearings at this time. Our next item on the agenda is citizens' comment. And I will start how we always start, with reading the rules for speaking before the city council during the citizen comment portion of the meeting. First of all, thank you for being so concerned about such a serious issue and for being here. The rules are simple. Number one, each speaker will state their name and address prior to addressing council. Number two, each speaker is limited to up to 3 minutes during the citizen comment portion of the meeting. Council members will not debate or answer questions at this time. Suggestion: if you have a question, state that question. It is very likely that someone on council, as you saw earlier, will reiterate that question. During the citizen comment portion of the meeting, we do not answer questions or debate during that time. It's your 3 minutes. You've got questions. Again, I document every citizen comment, good and bad, every single one. And so if you have a question, ask that question, and hopefully a council person will take that question up for you. Otherwise, you have to wait until after the meeting is over if you want to have a conversation or you're interested in debating somebody about it. Number three, each speaker should be polite and courteous to the council and the members of the public in attendance. While any speaker is free to express his or her opinion on any subject, no speaker may direct personal attacks at any member of the staff or council unrelated to the manner in which they perform their duties, use obscene language while addressing the city council, or engage in disruptive or disorderly behavior during a council meeting. Number four, should any speaker cause a breach of the peace through their conduct, the mayor may declare the speaker out of order. Number five, if a speaker is declared out of order by the mayor and refuses to cease and desist from disruptive or disorderly conduct, the mayor may order the person removed from the meeting. Number six, each speaker may speak once under public comment and may not yield their time to others. Laura Schlechte.
Hi, aren't I the lucky one to start?
All right, Laura Schlechte, 759 West Michigan Avenue. Your time is wrong because it says, oh, okay. Wow. How many, here's a question for you guys to contemplate. How many staff people are going to be added as a result of this ordinance? When I was on city council, we worked hard to improve downtown, to attract businesses, residents, investment, and visitors. As a result of the homelessness and your parking restrictions, businesses are leaving, buildings are difficult to sell, and many people no longer feel safe or comfortable visiting downtown or using the library. The proposed ordinance creates procedures for removing, documenting, transporting, storing belongings left in public spaces, but that's not a solution. The city will use police officers, public works employees, vehicles, storage space, and taxpayer dollars to inventory and impound these belongings. The encampment may then simply move to another place. Employees handling these items could be exposed to drugs, needles, human feces, animals, and contaminated material. Why would you put our employees through that when you already have another solution or another option exists? We invested $1 million in the T.A. Wilson building, plus the pallet shelters and related emergency shelter efforts. The city then sold TA to Residents in Actions for $150,000, and that purchase agreement requires T.A. Wilson to operate as a homeless shelter. Why are we spending city resources impounding belongings while the facility contractually required to operate as a homeless shelter is not being used for that purpose? Work with Residents in Action to open T.A. Wilson, relocate the encampment there, then enforce the ordinances that are already on the books. Place the pallet shelters there and create a controlled location where our service providers can connect with these individuals about mental health and substance abuse and anything that they may need.
If residents in action cannot or will not operate T.A. Wilson as required, enforce the purchase agreement. The city readily enforces ordinances against landlords and homeowners. If an unlicensed vehicle or too many trailers are in a parking lot or overgrown grass or items marked free in the right-of-way, they're ticketed, they're warned. Stop using a revised or new ordinance to kick this problem down the road. You've done it with our roads and other important issues. They're serious problems. Let's deal with it now. You have the authority to act. You have the ordinance to enforce. You have approximately $1 million invested in a facility contractually required to operate as a homeless shelter. The people of Jackson do not need another excuse or delay. We need leadership, accountability, and action now. Open T.A. Wilson, relocate the encampment, enforce the ordinances already on the books, and restore order to our downtown. And take away the stupid parking signs that encourage people to not stay downtown and park or and shop.
I can anticipate that we're probably going to have a lot of people who are agreeing or perhaps disagreeing.
Should we hold all applause?
I just in the interest of time, I think that what has historically been helpful in our higher interest council meetings is if people agree with the speaker, just do a thumbs up. If you disagree with the speaker, do a thumbs down. And that way things can proceed.
Oh, geez. Now we're splitting hairs.
Listen. The one thing we are going to do is we're going to stay in order.
We are in order.
Yeah, I didn't ask you a question. Candidate for mayor.
He's so rude.
I didn't ask you a question.
Jesus.
I don't care if people applaud if they're happy about it. I don't know how anybody else in council feels. They want to applaud every time.
We ain't gonna solve it.
Exactly.
I'm here for. We're gonna call everybody by name. Did you fill out one of these slips for us?
No, I didn't. I didn't know I was supposed to.
They ran out.
So,
But I'm gonna speak anyway.
I'm sorry.
I didn't get anything to sign
I'm
either.
sorry. Give me just a second.
Yeah.
We would like to hear him.
You
And
don't
I'm sure
hear
you-
me.
And I'm sure you would like to hear him also. Sir, when you get done, I need you to fill one of these out.
I can do that.
Okay, thank
But
you.
this is my
You
first
got-
time
I
here.
understand. I understand. You got 3 minutes. I understand.
But
You proceed.
Daniel, you ran out of
That's
the
okay.
form. You
I
ran out
I
of the
wanted one too.
We got it. If anybody else needs one, someone from staff will get one of these ready. If you need one and you don't have one, they should be located near the door at some point. soon. Yes, can y'all hear me? Hang on.
Hardly.
Can you hear me now? JTV, can y'all turn my mic up in the back? I'm used to this, y'all. Don't worry. Turn my mic up a little bit. Check. Can y'all hear me better now? I don't know if you turned it up or not, but sometimes it just makes you feel like you can hear more. Let's just stay in order. Okay, that's all I ask. This is a hot button issue for everybody. I'm just asking for everybody to stay in order, please. Sir, if you'll proceed, just start with your name for us. When you get done, somebody will find you with one of those slips. Anybody else who doesn't have one, when they come and find this gentleman, hopefully they'll have a few extras. You can grab one from them, or they're already by the door, it sounds like. Please proceed, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. My name is Marvin Powell, and I reside at 214 South Jackson Street, apartment 324. That's in the Albert Kahn Apartments. And on July 9th in the afternoon, probably about 2 p.m., I was sitting outside on my walker, just enjoying the breeze, and I was attacked by a vagrant person. They came from up where that hobo encampment is. You call it homeless. I call it hobo. And I wasn't seriously injured by the guy. I fought him off, and then I called 911 and gave him a description, and they found him up at the hobo camp. And my hat goes off to the Jackson Police Department, especially Officer Stallworth. He came and assisted me in every way he could. And through the weekend, it bared really heavy on me being assaulted. I'm 77 years old and I'm disabled, as you can see. And Officer Stallworth got back with me Monday, and I was in a bad state of mind. I wanted to hurt somebody, and he helped me get up to Lifeways, and they really helped me. They talked me down. Okay, now I guess my elected representative is this lady here. I called you on the 12th of July. I guess you were big time in Canada from what you told me. And you said you'd call me back. The day is the 21st. I ain't heard nothing from you yet. Now, when you got elected, matter of fact, I voted for you too. And you know, when you got elected, you took an oath. All of you took an oath when you got elected. And you ought to live up to it. You know, you're supposed to represent the people here in Jackson and do what you can to make life easier and better. And why not do it? Not getting back to people is not helping things. You know? And I listened to your prayer. I'm not impressed by it because you live what you talk about.